Hi guys, so today's video is going to be a new book releases wrap up. This particular month, the new releases that I read, I have 3 and they are all fantasy. I wanted to specifically have a video dedicated to new releases, and if I read enough at the end of every month, I would like to make this a consistent thing because I know that there's already, for most people, a huge backlist of books that they're wanting to get around to. And so with new releases, we often have a lot of anticipated releases, things that we think sound really good, but we also don't see a lot of follow-up with them. We have them on our radar, but then we're kind of waiting to see what people have to say about them, except for that not always everyone has the time to get to these, so they end up on anticipated releases, and then we don't see a lot of follow-up. What I'm hoping to do is inform you about these to a point where if it's something that you want to spend your hard-earned money on, because new releases are, generally speaking, they're not going to be discounted. You're not really going to find them probably at local used bookstores for a secondhand price. So this lets you know a little bit more if you want to splurge, if you want to take a chance, spend that money on that new release. So jumping into it, we have 3 to discuss today. One of them is the conclusion to a trilogy, whereas with the other 2, one of them is the beginning of a series, and then one of them is almost a standalone. There is going to be a companion book that comes out, I believe chronologically. It'll take place after the events of the first book, but it's going to be a separate story, so it's like a companion sequel, but not necessarily a direct sequel. I'm going to start with the one that is the first in a series. I know a lot of times people are really hesitant to pick up new series because they're already in the middle of so many. So that one would be Mask of Mirrors. This one is definitely chunky. It is, I would say, a little deceiving in how long it looks. So it's in the 600s, which is not short, but I think when you see something this large, it looks like it's 800, 900 pages. So I would say it's pretty standard for adult fantasy, which is what this is. I've seen a few people not sure if this is adult or young adult, or they just think it's young adult. It's adult fantasy, so there is some adult language. There are some references to sexual content, although there's no explicit details necessarily. And there are a lot of intricate ways in which all of the people in the story are connected. It's a little more dense than a YA book would be, so definitely adult fantasy. The setup for this one is we have a main character that is discussed in the synopsis, but it is multiple point of view, but that main character is kind of the driving force for the whole book. Her name is Ren, or Renata, or Arenza, depending on which con she is currently playing. So Ren is her real name. She grew up on the streets, and then she kind of escaped her situation, and now she is trying to elevate herself by pulling off a con against a noble house, but more than trying to take their money, she's trying to basically pretend to be a long-lost relative so that they will accept her into her house, and then she will elevate her status by being aligned with them. Besides Ren, you see the point of view of the people that she is interacting with. So you have the house that she is trying to become aligned with, as well as some other point of views that tie to hers. But I'm not gonna lie, a lot of times when we pick up fantasy, especially adult fantasy, and you get introduced to a lot of different point of views, I think a lot of times we complain, oh my gosh, there's so many different point of views and they're all totally different, it's hard to keep track of. This one, they are not all totally different, they are all connected, they're in the same area, and I actually found that harder to keep track of initially. So I do think that this book has a slow start and it takes a while to find yourself acclimated to who everybody is and what is going on. So besides Ren, you have the head of the house, and she is trying to keep her house from sinking, so Ren didn't exactly pick the best house to try and con. Then you have somebody who is essentially a part of the watch for this city, which is a very beautiful, lush city setting, kind of a Venice vibe. And this person has been tasked to look into her. Then you have one of the sons of the house that she is trying to con her way into. Then you have her landlord, basically, as a point of view. And because everybody is somewhat tied to everybody else, and they're all kind of unsure of everyone, it took a little bit. And on top of that, this book likes its fantasy names. So there's a lot of words with V's and Z's. For example, the name of the setting is Nadezhra, and it is spelled Nadez with a little mark over that RA. But there's a lot of words that are made up and not the easiest on, I guess, the tongue if you're saying out loud, but like your brain if you're reading it and then vocalizing in your mind. But it takes a while. I do feel like it is one of those books where people say so much by not really saying anything at all, because it's a lot of like posturing, and you're saying something to someone like, oh, I think that sounds like a wonderful idea, but the way you say it is actually saying you think it's a garbage idea. And it's a lot of maneuvering and a little bit of scheming, a lot of mistrust, a lot of, oh my gosh, does this person know that I'm actually this person? Could they tell that that was me? It's a lot of that. Not a ton of action. There are action scenes, but the action scenes are more tied to the magic, and I am going to admit I pretty much never knew what was going on with the magic. I don't even know that I can explain it as a magic system. It's one of those things where some of it the characters seem familiar with. So for example, they have cards that they can kind of read and then determine a little bit about your future. They have that sort of thing, which they're very familiar with. But then there's also kind of monsters and a parallel dream-like world, and that is very unusual to the characters, and sometimes you can reach it by doing drugs, and so there's like this mystery with drugs and the kids that are on the streets. So there's a lot going on with this book, and it's like a lot of not only house maneuverings and the con artist plotline, but also corruption within the city and the kind of people who are impoverished, how they're trying to get a little bit more say against the people who are corrupt. And the setting is really interesting. There's a lot going on with this book. It's not the easiest to follow, even though I would say the writing itself is not dense. It's not like I was reading a sentence like, what does it mean? It's so metaphorical. That really wasn't it. But I would say if you're looking for one of those books where it's all about how you word things, the maneuvering, the scheming, the playing people, if you're in it for that kind of a thing, not necessarily, oh, there's tons of dragons, we have to go on this epic quest. It's a contained story, but there's so much going on within that, then I think that this one would be really appealing to you. But if you want that quest story, if you want more traditional fantasy, if you want more action, if you want more of a magic system, the way you would find with something like Brent Weeks or Brandon Sanderson, that's not what this book is. Next up, we have A Vow So Bold and Deadly by Bridget Kemmerer. This is the third and final book in the Cursebreaker series, the first being A Curse So Dark and Lonely. I'm sure a lot of you have heard about it. It's a Beauty and the Beast retelling. This is a YA fantasy trilogy, and I really enjoyed the first one. The second one had a shift in focus when it came to the characters, and this third one, we're tying things more together. I think of the three, the first one may have been my favorite. I just was really surprised at how much I enjoyed that first one. I really loved the characters that it focused on. This one, it focuses on some people from the first as well as the people from the second, and I just like the characters from the first book a little more. So when we would shift to the characters, the other ones, I was like, can we go back to the other two, please? So I can't say too much else about this third one without it being mildly spoilery, because it is the conclusion. So even saying, oh, I loved how sweet the ending was, or like, oh, my heart, it broke, I can't really say that kind of stuff, because then that reveals some things. It will reveal if there's character deaths or if there are no character deaths. What I will say is I think that this was a solid conclusion to the trilogy. There were... I'm trying to find ways for this to be helpful and not totally useless. If you're interested in this trilogy and you've been waiting for this third one to come out, I would say definitely give it a go. It's a lot of fun. It's really light. It's kind of YA fantasy at its best. It's got some tropes, but it has a unique spin on them. It's got a really likable protagonist. And I think that it's a good time. It's a good break between heavier stuff, between maybe more epic stuff. The third book, we have Hall of Smoke. I did do an entire dedicated review for this one. If you are interested, I'll have it linked. This is a somewhat Viking-inspired fantasy story. We follow a character who, after she has lost a lot that is really significant to her, she is kind of just trying to survive, and she's grieving, but she also gets caught between a battle between the gods, and she's discovering more about the goddess that she serves. It is a warrior goddess. Our main character is a warrior priestess, And they sort of wonder if a lot of the things that went wrong are because of things that they did in disobeying their goddess. So they're also wondering, on top of grieving, if they're at fault, which is really sad. This book is, I would say, maybe not as fun. It's not long at all. This is the one that is adult fantasy that will have a companion sequel, which I am definitely interested in checking out. I think this one is very atmospheric. It spends a lot of time with this character as they are grieving. So it's not, that's what I mean by it's not fun. It's not really cheeky and hilarious, and the dialogue is just so funny. You don't really get a lot of that. The world, the setting itself very much feels real, like you can imagine Nordic countries, but I think that it's fantastical in the religious elements, the way in which the gods and goddesses and their issues, the way that those things are brought to life. I definitely think that's where it feels like a fantasy story, but it also feels so real because the character is experiencing something that so many of us experience. And I think the author did a really good job with that. I definitely want to see more of what they do in the future. This one was a little bit hard to follow everything that was going on with the deities. And there's also, you find out some other things that are sort of lesser, and there's things that are more. And so keeping track of everything can be a little much, but not, I would say, to the extent that Mask of Mirrors was. That one was definitely a little bit more of a whirlwind. But it is single point of view, the entire story, and then you can read it as a standalone, which I think is kind of rare in fantasy. And if you're looking for something like that, I would definitely check this one out. It has mythological feeling to it. Like, you feel like you're being told this epic story, but a contained story because it is only one book. It is focused on this one character. I said it already. I'm excited to see what else this author does because I did quite enjoy this. I like the exploration of grief. It does not make for the most entertaining of stories necessarily, but I liked their take on mythology. I liked the setting, I liked the focus on grieving, and I liked our main character. We don't see a whole lot of their personality beyond being sad and trying to survive, but they do have the strong desire to protect people, which definitely made me like them right away. They're a character you can root for. Overall, I enjoyed all of these. None of them absolutely blew me away. Nothing was a new favorite where I'm not going to shut up about it, but I am going to definitely be recommending these in the future. If they sound interesting to you, I would say pick them up. They were very good. This one, it's not the easiest. And I think that this one, because it is the first book in a series and there's so much to keep track of, that it might not be the best book to pick up anytime soon if you are somebody who wants to wait until series are completed or close to completion. Whereas this one you can pick up whenever. This, like I said, third book in a trilogy, but if you've been wanting to pick up that trilogy, now would be a good time. It is a lot of fun. But anyway, let me know if any of these sound like things that you would want to pick up. If you also have had a chance to read any of these, feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments down below. Spoiler free, please. But anyway, thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you all later. Bye.